everybody. Welcome to the Hidden Gems podcast. This is a show where we like to talk about streaming services and the hidden gems that you can find on those services. And this is a really fun episode today. I'm film critic Rachel Wagner. Ryan is here.
Hey, Rachel, it's great to be back with you once again. And I'm especially excited because we have a guest today.
Yay!
Hi.
Yes, we have a guest. My friend David Healy is here. We used to do a regular show where we would do previews and recaps of the movies, but COVID kind of killed our show.
Yeah, it kind of did, but
I mean, theaters are as open as they've been for a while, so I mean, nothing's stopping you from bringing it back.
Yeah, maybe we should. Maybe for fall. Maybe that would be good.
Yeah, that could be good for sure.
Yeah. But we had a lot of fun, and we're so excited to have you here. We're doing one of our diversity showcases that we do on this podcast. So this can be from any of the streaming services, and I thought it would just be fun to do one of these for Pride, but also just for other diverse content that's out there, so that we can all be more informed and watch these hidden gems that are out there. So David, thank you so much for coming and doing this with us.
I'm really excited to talk about these 3 movies that I've picked out.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear about them. So yeah, let's dive in. And Ryan, why don't you start? What's your first pick?
Sure. So my first pick is a documentary. It was released in 1997. It's from the mind of Spike Lee, and it is called 4 Little Girls. This is a very sad documentary. It is not a fun watch at all, not even close. But I'm recommending it because I feel like it's an important movie, and in some ways it is still scarily relevant today. This is a documentary that is about the 1963 Birmingham church bombing that killed, 4 little girls. And I will read their names just for the sake of I feel compelled to. Addie Mae Collins, Carol Denise McNair, Cynthia Wesley, and Carol Rosamond Robertson. And the documentary is basically about the bombing itself and the fallout from it. And basically, this was the first real push of what would become the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It was a big push from Martin Luther King, and it was eventually signed by President Lyndon B. Johnson. But especially with the events of last year involving whole George Floyd thing and everything like that, I feel like this movie is scarily relevant in some capacity to this day. Like I said, it is not a fun watch, but I feel like it is a very important watch. And I think when it comes to Spike Lee, people talk about movies like Do the Right Thing and as recently as Black Klansman, and those are all great films. Let's not get that twisted. But I think one of his most overlooked is this documentary, 4 Little Girls. He put a lot of heart and soul into it, and it really does show. So if you haven't checked it out, I can't recommend it enough. Not a fun watch, but an important one nonetheless.
Yeah, I never heard of this one, to be honest. So I'm very interested. Where's the streaming?
This is on HBO Max. I should have started off with that.
Yeah, it sounds like it's definitely worthwhile to watch. Have you ever heard of this one, David?
I have not, but it reminds me of the opening scene from Selma, which shows that incident happening. And when I watched Selma, that had me in tears right away. So I have a feeling this is also a tearjerker, especially since it's a documentary.
Oh yeah, this movie covers pretty much that whole event, warts and all. So emotionally speaking, be prepared.
Yeah, that sounds good. So David, what is your first pick?
Okay, my first pick is a Kenyan film called Rafiki. A lot of people know the name Rafiki from Lion King, but it's actually a word that means friend in Swahili. And this is a lesbian love story in Kenya, which it was very controversial because that's actually outlawed in Kenya, any sort of act of homosexuality. So this film was banned in Kenya, but I just watched it last year, And I was surprised by how such a controversial film with kind of something that could be very problematic um, just brought a lot of joy to me. Like it's such a happy film. It's got heavy moments in it, but for the most part, like you'll be watching this and you'll just be smiling, watching these two girls just kind of have this forbidden love, and it just feels so genuine. The acting is great. It's so colorful and vivid too. I think this is honestly, I've told people this. I think it's just about on par with something like Moonlight for me. As far as cinematography, story, heart, everything, it just really works. I think this is a great film. And it's funny, I was listening to an interview with the director, and she was talking about how she almost got it approved to show in Kenya, but they just wanted the ending to be changed to have the characters show remorse and regret for what they were doing. And she wasn't willing to compromise on that. It has a pretty hopeful ending. I don't want to give it all away, but I'm glad she stuck to her guns because it wouldn't have been the same. So this is on Canopy. Spoiler, all three of my films that I'm talking about are on Canopy. So if you don't have it, you should look into it.
Yeah,
Rachel and I are big fans. We've done we've done 3 episodes on the service already, and we just keep stumbling upon to new things to discover every time.
Mm-hmm.
We actually just last week was our episode was on Canopy. And we even said there that it's one of the best services. I mean, it has some mainstream stuff. It has some new stuff. It has some classics. It's got like your Criterion type stuff. It's really got a good variety, and it's free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All you need is a library card and you're set.
Yeah. Exactly.
$3.99, my favorite price.
$3.99. Yeah. Have you all heard of Rafiki or seen it?
I feel like I've heard it about it. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I got to be perfectly honest. When I read this title, I'm like, you were right, David. I'm like, Lion King? And not in like an insulting fashion. I just always associated with that character. But I had never heard of this. It sounds fascinating that a movie like this would get banned, and just you would think that film censorship, because it's not really that prevalent in the US, at least as far as I know. So when I hear something of this, I'm like, wait, what year is it again? But it just sounds foreign to me, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because this is a movie that has gone to court. I'm not sure if it's been settled yet, but the director's trying to push back because Kenya does have a very new constitution, and it should be allowed under freedom of expression. So she's fighting to get it seen in Kenya. So I'm hoping that will work out, or if it did work out and I didn't know about it, that's great. But yeah, I think it's definitely worth seeing. And also, if you're hesitant to watch foreign language films, this is actually mostly in English. I was pretty surprised watching it. I would say it's probably about 80% in English.
When was it made?
I believe this came out in 2018, so it's still pretty new.
Pretty recent. Yeah, interesting. That sounds really good.
Yeah.
I will have to check that out. So my first choice is a movie that got a lot of play on film Twitter, but so some people might argue it's not a hidden gem, but I think for the average person, it certainly didn't do that well at the box office, so I think it counts. I have Booksmart as my first pick, and this movie is very raunchy. It's definitely R-rated, not for the faint of heart, but I think that I love stories about friendship, and the friendship between the two girls I think is really sweet. One of the characters it's about two girls who are getting ready to go to college, and they realize that they have spent their entire high school years not having any fun. And so they decide that, and then they realize that all these people that were having fun got into the same schools that they were getting into. And so they're like, why did we do that? And so they decide to spend this last weekend just like having crazy antics and fun. And it's I don't know. I thought it was charming. I thought it was funny. It is raunchy, and I guess, I wish it wasn't so raunchy, but whatever. I mean, it has Lisa Kudrow and Will Forte are in it. They're great. Jason Sudeikis plays the principal / Uber driver. He's funny. Billie Lourd, that's the one. She plays Gigi, and she's great. She's probably the best part about the whole movie. And I mean, there were people that were definitely overselling this, that it was like the greatest teen comedy ever made. I'm not there, but I still did enjoy it. And I think it's worth watching, especially for Caitlin Dever's performance. She plays a character who is kind of tentatively exploring her sexuality, exploring who she is. And I thought that she brought a ton of heart to the whole film. She was another really good character. So I don't know. I think it's definitely worth watching, and you can watch this one on Hulu. So, what do you think of Booksmart, David?
Yeah, so I love Booksmart. It was in my top 10 of the year it came out, 2019, I believe, right? Yeah, I think it's a hilarious movie. Like you said, Billie Lourd kind of steals the show. Yeah, I do think this is the best like recent modern teen comedy, like within the past 5 years or so. It beats Lady Bird for me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But yeah, I think it's definitely worth watching if any of you haven't seen it.
Yeah, I definitely like it better than Edge to 17. I definitely like it better than Lady Bird. I mean, I might go for something more like The Perks of Being a Wallflower. I guess that's older than that, is more my jam. But also I loved the To All the Boys movies, which I guess we could talk about for diversity. Those are diverse. But I like those. But yeah, this is definitely up there. That's for sure. Did you get to watch Booksmart, Ryan?
Yes, I did, and it's a strange reason why I went to watch this, because Caitlin Dever was actually on a TV show I like called Last Man Standing with Tim Allen, and I loved her in that, so I'm like, oh, I'll go see it because I loved her in this other show, so I at least want to give her support there. I think this is a tad just overrated, and that's just because literally everywhere on film Twitter, everywhere you turned, it was like, Booksmart's the greatest movie, like the greatest teen comedy ever made. And so you have these high expectations, and I was just like, okay, that was good. I could go off on like one hand of scenes that legitimately made me like laugh, like legitimately laugh. But I think it was definitely oversold. I wouldn't mind seeing Olivia Wilde write or direct something in the future, because I think in terms of directorial efforts, this is a really good start to one's directing career or writing.
Yeah. A strong debut. And I totally relate to the idea of looking and seeing you didn't have quote unquote fun, and you see all these people that played around and were ridiculous, and they get into the same schools as you do. It's just like, what?
Yeah, I had like no fun in high school, but I didn't do like half of the stuff that these two did.
Well, I certainly didn't either, but I relate to the feeling, at least. Being like, what? So unfair. But yeah, I mean, there were some people who definitely oversold it. I get that, but I still think we've had enough space that it's worth bringing up again, I think, and worth checking out. And I think Olivia Wilde has a new project coming up pretty soon. There was a whole thing where she fired Shia LaBeouf, and she was filming, so that's exciting. So, all right. Well, Ryan, what is your next pick?
So my next pick is on the Tubi streaming service, and I'm choosing Roman J. Israel Esquire. And when I saw this was, I saw Coco, the Pixar movie, and this movie in the same night. And so that's a crazy double feature, yes, I know. To go from this big, colorful animated movie to Roman J. Israel Esquire. It tells the story of a lawyer named, Roman J. Israel Esquire. He's played by Denzel Washington. We all know who he is, and he's basically a lawyer that takes all of these smaller cases, the cases that nobody wants. He makes about $500 a month. He lives in a place that is probably bigger than the room I'm sitting in right now, but just barely. He has headphones that I think were outdated even in the early 70s, but anyway. After his law partner dies, he gets an offer from a prestigious law firm, which is headed up by Colin Farrell. And so Roman J. Israel Esquire is given free reign to work on his big thing, the one that he wants to, his life work basically, to try and shore up the plea bargaining system, because it is consistently abused, especially in LA, according to this movie at least. I didn't really expect much from this. It's Denzel, so I knew he was going to be good in it at least. But I found this movie to be really riveting. Like I said, Denzel's really good, but I like this character. I like how, even though he is clearly the smartest guy in any room that he's in, and he has legal talent for days, he just stays where he is and fights these glamorous fights. He's not Columbo, he's not Perry Mason, but he just chooses to focus his efforts on what he has done throughout his whole career. And there's something honorable about that. I can see why people would think, oh, this is kind of generic and all, but I think this movie is definitely underrated. Even just like discounting or forgetting about the Denzel performance, I think this movie is just very fascinating, and it definitely fell under the radar.
Yeah, I actually haven't seen this one. So of course, I heard about it when he got nominated, but I didn't get around to seeing it. I think you were a fan. You liked this pretty well, David?
Yeah, so it's a little complicated, but I actually was the opposite. I had very high expectations for this because the director's previous film, Nightcrawler, is like an all-time favorite for me. So I was very excited about this. And when I watched it, I thought the movie was decent, but I thought the character of Roman J. Israel Esquire was one of the best written characters I've ever seen in a film. I think Denzel Washington's performance is stellar. In fact, I would say it's his best performance I've seen.
Wow.
I know it's crazy how much I enjoy this character, and I think it's so much bigger than what the movie has to offer. So I think if you want a great character study, this is something I would highly recommend. Like, this is a movie I still recommend to people, even though I think it could have delivered more as far as the plot goes. But there's some very riveting scenes with Denzel, especially like you'll see his paranoia gets to him like to such a high level, and it's really fascinating to watch. I won't say it may be justified that he's paranoid. I won't give away too much, but yeah, I think it's worth checking out for sure. You should watch it, Rachel.
I know I need to get on it. I really do. Maybe when we do our we do our follow-ups, maybe that's when I'll do, because every couple months we do where Ryan will recommend some movies for me, I'll recommend some for him, and that's pretty fun. So I'll have to check that one out. David, what is your next pick?
Okay, so my next pick is a movie called Other People. This one came out, when did this come out? 2016. And I remember seeing a trailer for this film. It has Molly Shannon, and she's dying of cancer. Her son is played by Jesse Plemons. He's a writer like a comedy writer in New York, and he's coming home to Sacramento to be with his mom as she's dying. So we're used to seeing Molly Shannon play such like comedic characters. I mean, she was in Superstar, and she goes from that to this, which she has a very dramatic role, but there's also a lot of humor and heart to it. And I just watched this last year for the first time. I didn't realize that Jesse Plemons' character was gay, and he has to also deal with his parents. His mom's accepting. His dad has not come to terms with it yet. So there's that extra layer to the film, but I like that it's not just a story that's centered around him being gay. That's just an aspect to it, but it's mostly about dealing with this inevitable loss of his mother that's coming. And they show you from the very first scene that this is not going to end well. She is going to die. They reveal that right away, and they do it in a very comedic way. Um, but yeah, I could relate to this a lot too. My mother was diagnosed with cancer a few years ago. Luckily, I had a happier ending, but it hasn't ended yet. She's recovered from cancer, and she's doing fine. But yeah, it really hit me being able to relate to a lot of these scenes, just worrying about a loved one who's going through this struggle. So I'll be honest, I cried a lot watching this. It's definitely a tearjerker. Of my three movies, it's the one that's going to elicit the most emotion as far as like sadness goes. But you all should check it out if you haven't seen it. It is available on Canopy again, and it's on Netflix.
Let me just say first and foremost, David, your mom's a badass. Let's just get that out of the way right now.
Thank you. Yes, she definitely kicked cancer's butt.
I have to say, before talking about, so I don't know if you knew that Superstar is one of 2 movies I've walked out of in my life.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Well, don't hold it against Molly Shannon. She can act.
I hated it so much. When they got through Will Ferrell Jesus, I was like, I'm done. I'm not. That's too much for me.
You were
So.
you were like the SpongeBob meme. I'm a head out.
But yeah, I remember seeing trailers for this. But yeah, so it's a really good hidden gem because it's not one I've thought about since. But but it's definitely one I remember seeing and be like, oh, that looks different for her at least. You don't usually see her in those kind of roles.
I bought it right when it came out on DVD, and I just never got around to watching it. This happens a lot. Rachel knows. I buy movies, and then I just don't watch them. So I'm glad I gave it a chance.
How many you got now? 3,000?
Oh, I've got almost 3,800.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Wow, I gotta get better.
I'm running out of space.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Is there any room for your roommates in there?
A little bit.
A little bit, yeah. Very good. Yeah, have you ever seen this, Ryan?
No, I'm similar to you, Rachel. I'd never even heard of it, but the cast intrigues me, especially Molly Shannon, which we've talked about, but especially Jesse Plemons, who is slowly becoming one of my favorite character actors or side actors going today. He was Todd in Breaking Bad. He was Gary in Game Night, which is a super underrated comedy. You all should watch it if you have not seen it. It's excellent.
Oh, Game Night, so good.
He was in The Irishman. He was in Vice, and no matter my feelings on those movies, he's usually the best part. And whenever I see him, I'm like, Fat Matt Damon, Fat Matt Damon.
I say the same thing.
But also, still, he's a great actor.
It's worth noting that this is an semi-autobiographical film by Chris Kelly, and he is a writer for SNL. He lost his mom to cancer, so this is basically his story. It comes from somebody who's established in comedy. So if you're looking for something funny, I think this might meet your need. It's not the funniest movie because it's very heavy, but it definitely has some laughs to it.
Well, my next pick is what Ryan likes to call hard left, an emotional cancer film. Mine is actually a television show, and sadly, it did get canceled, but it's still worth watching, and hopefully maybe Netflix will want to do another season because it's really good. It's called The Baker and the Beauty, excuse me, The Baker and the Beauty. And this is based on an Israeli show with the same title. And the whole concept is you have this man who works for his family bakery. It's a Latino bakery. in Miami, and he goes to this fancy restaurant with his girlfriend, and his girlfriend surprises him, and she proposes, and he says no. And so it's like this huge thing, huge spectacle. Well, when he's getting the soup off of his clothes from when she throws it on him, he meets this woman who is this famous celebrity, and she's kind of like a Paris Hilton type. Like her family had money, and she acts and stuff like that. Anyway, they kind of have this moment and this evening or whatever, and he ends up kind of dating this movie star. And the thing about it, it's more than just that. The whole family is so great. I really loved his sister, played by Belisa Escobedo. She was wonderful. She comes out to her family, and her mother really struggles to deal with that. And I thought that the way that it was done was very honest, and I think people will really be able to relate to it. And I really liked her character a lot. And then you also have Mateo, his brother, who ends up becoming kind of friendly with Vanessa, the ex-girlfriend. There's sort of that plot line going. It's just really romantic, really fun. I loved all the characters. It's like steeped in that kind of South Beach, Miami kind of culture and everything. And Natalie Kelly is the movie star, and I think she does a really good job. So I just really thought it was great, and I was super sad it was canceled. But maybe if enough people watch it, and then maybe they'll bring it back because it's so good.
Boy, that in Kim's Convenience, it's a sad time in sitcom land for you, Rachel.
I know. This is a like 40, it's a longer hour-long show. So Kim's Convenience is 22, the 22 minutes. But I love both of those shows so much. And it seems like just when at least Kim's Convenience lasts 5 seasons. This was a one season wonder, unfortunately, but it's still worth it. It's still really romantic, great casting, really great family, and I don't know if you like the story of someone falling in love with a normal person falling in love with a movie star. It's almost like the American version of a royal story. Since we don't have a royal, we kind of a movie star is like the next, Notting Hill kind of a thing. Yeah, definitely. And I really liked Michelle Ventimiglia, who plays Vanessa. She's great. I don't know, it's just all really, really good. So let's see. So Ryan, what about you? What's your next pick?
So my final pick is from Peacock, and this is a movie that I watched a lot growing up. I think I was literally like around, when it was released, I remember seeing it with my mom and then renting it from the library like a lot of times. I think I know this is one of those movies that I have like committed to memory, and I can just repeat the entire movie back to you if you really want it. It's called Akeelah and the Bee. This movie stars Keke Palmer as a girl named Akeelah, who is incredibly good at spelling. Like seriously, you could give her like a super long word and she can spell it like that. She comes from a very rough neighborhood, but she is given the opportunity to participate in a local spelling bee, which eventually propels her to the Scripps National Spelling Bee in Washington, D.C. And I just like this movie because it's a very triumphant story, I feel. Keke Palmer's really good in here. Angela Bassett, who's always really great in everything she's in here, playing Akeelah's mom. She's really good. But the one that takes it over the top is Lawrence Fishburne as Akeelah's spelling coach, because they have kind of like a Rocky and Mick kind of relationship where Mick is like, I'm not going to train you, you're a bum. Or not like that exact dialogue, but I'm sure you get my point. But after much grinding down, he's like, fine, I'll teach you. And they have many ups and downs, but it's all handled very well. And I had no idea that spelling bees could be riveting outside maybe the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, but there it is. If you haven't seen this movie before, it's definitely worth watching. There's a really good scene involving Scrabble, and it's the most exciting Scrabble has ever been. Let's just say that.
Yeah, this is a really cute movie. I think all the performances are very good, and it's just one of those crowd pleasers that makes you want to cheer at the end. It's really, really fun.
Yeah,
have you seen this one?
This is one that I had not seen until this year, actually. And so Keke Palmer, I've always just associated her with Scream Queens because that was the first thing I ever saw her in. So it was really cool to watch her like be this young girl. And yeah, I thought it was really cute. It was well made. She was great in it. Yeah, I think this is a good recommendation.
If you want another movie about spelling bee, though, you should watch Spellbound, the documentary. Really good. All about the spelling bee. It's really good. All right. David, what's your next pick?
So I'm keeping with the Pride theme. I talked about a lesbian film, a gay film. Let's go to a transgender film. So my last recommendation here is going to be a movie called Tangerine. Now, this is another movie I watched for the first time last year, and I've already watched it a second time. It is by Sean Baker, which a lot of us may know from the Florida Project. He directed that. So I love the Florida Project, so I've been curious about Tangerine for quite a while. But yeah, this is a really fun story about these two transgender women who live in LA, and it's one of those one-day hijinks films. They're going on a mission, trying to find somebody. There's a lot of stuff going on all throughout one night, but we're so used to seeing any movie about a transgender woman or man that's just about them suffering for being transgender, and this really doesn't go to that level. It's really kind of a buddy movie, and they have their ups and downs. It's got a lot of inappropriate things to it, so it's not for all audiences. But I don't know. It almost feels like a documentary. Like it just feels so natural, seeing these two actresses do their thing, and they're actually transgender women. So many movies that we see that are more mainstream have cisgender people playing transgender characters. So that's one thing that I really appreciate about this as well. There's not a lot of big names. One of the actors you might recognize from the It Chapter 2 or the Sinister movies, but other than that, they're pretty small names, which seems to be kind of Sean Baker's style. He likes to have people that are actually locals to whatever area he's filming in, maybe throw in one bigger name. So I definitely recommend this, and it's available on Canopy once again. But if you don't have that, it's on Tubi. If you don't have that, it's on Vudu. It's also on Pluto TV. It's also on Plex. So you got lots of options.
And I think it was shot all on iPhone.
It was,
right? Yeah.
I forgot to mention that part. So it holds up. It's got pretty good quality for being all on iPhone.
Mm-hmm. Well, I haven't seen it, but I've heard good things. So yeah. Have you seen this one, Ryan?
No, and actually, when I was reading off of David's list before we were recording, I was like, wait, they finally turned that book into a movie? Because context, in high school, I read a book called Tangerine, which is about a young boy who is blinded supposedly from staring at the sun too long, but it was a complicated other incident, and it's another different thing. And I was like, no, the Tangerine book I read is here, and the Tangerine movie that David recommended is like way over there in terms of content. Right. So I was really off base there, but it sounds excuse me. It sounds really, really interesting.
Yeah, it is. And it's very well reviewed as well. So I think all three of these have great reviews. And look, neither of you have seen any of my three movies, so you
I
should
know.
definitely check some of them out at least.
Yes. All right. Well, my last pick is one I know that David has seen because they talk about it in our film group all the time. It's called Debs. D D E B S as in the government secret agency. Debs. And this movie is just fun. It's not like great cinema. Martin Scorsese probably wouldn't like it, but it's about these girls that run this spy organization, and there's all kinds of shenanigans that go down, but they actually there's some lesbian members of the group, and the way that it's handled is just really effortless, as if it's just like normal. And there's just so few, I feel like, just pure fun movies for LGBTQ audiences, where they're not like in pain about, and those are important. I'm not saying that they shouldn't, but I think it's also good for them just to have a fun, silly spy movie. Why not? And you definitely feel the budget on this, but it's just an enjoyable little romp. Jordana Brewster is the lead in it, and I don't know. What do you think of this one, David?
So yeah, this movie had been recommended to me in our film club by my friend Logan. So shout out Logan if you're watching. And I'll just say not every movie is for every person. So I personally am not a big fan of Debs. I think you have to really appreciate cheese in your movies. Like think like Disney Channel original movie. Like this is like a Disney Channel original movie if it had kind of a lesbian story.
Yeah, that's fair. I agree.
And those are not necessarily my type of movie. So I am glad when people like movies that I don't like. I'm glad they have their market. So I don't want to say anything bad about it, but it definitely was not for me.
I mean, I can't defend it that loudly. It's kind of, I think, it's similar to how people defend the original Mortal Kombat. Like, it's a silly movie, but I don't know. There's fun to be had, I think, in it.
Yeah, and it's self-aware with its silly.
Yeah.
Like it's doing that on purpose, and yeah.
And Holland Taylor, she's fun in it. You might recognize her from Legally Blonde. She's the professor in Legally Blonde. Michael Clark Duncan is in it. And so if you're just looking to just have something that's silly, like a sitcom, which I love sitcoms, then you'll enjoy this. And so I think part of it is going in with the right expectations.
Exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, so that is have you ever heard of Debs, Ryan?
No, but Jordana Brewster, I love in the Fast and Furious movies, and she's also in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot from 2003. So I like her in most of the things that she's in. So I'll definitely.
Faculty. I love her in The Faculty.
Oh yeah, she was in that.
Yeah,
she was in that.
Yeah, we have to have you, because David was always trying to get me to watch all these horror movies, particularly we would watch the trailers. So we have to have you back when we do like a hidden gem scary movie.
Oh, yeah.
See, David, I'm trying to get Rachel and Conrado on the Criterion Project to review Godzilla versus Megalon with the drop kick scene. Do you have any advice for me?
I mean, it's like pulling teeth sometimes to get Rachel to watch things, but she's expanding her horizons.
I'm trying.
That's fair. Yes, she did watch Night of the Living Dead last year, which is something I recommended.
And I watched Halloween, the original.
Okay.
Watched Halloween, and I watched Scream. Quiet Place 1 and 2.
Okay.
So
Nice. I'm proud.
well, this has been a lot of fun. I really enjoyed talking about these. Let us know if you're listening what you have been watching that features for Pride Month or for diversity. We'd love to hear your suggestions and what streaming service they are on. And David, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter. I'm the David Healy on Twitter. I'm also in a Facebook group. It's not that active anymore, but it's called Film Freaks. You can look at facebook.com/Film Freaks group. Rachel's in there too.
That's right. Yeah. And Ryan, how can people find you?
People can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd at RyanCam20. Then there's, of course, my YouTube channel, which is just called Ryan Cam. I passed 150 subscribers. As of this recording, I'm officially at 152. So I am super excited for that. The road to 200 begins right now, but I'm just supremely grateful for everyone who has subscribed and who will be subscribing. We're recording this on a Monday, which means that yesterday, Sunday, I dropped my collab with Sean from Lost in the Reel. We did a deep dive onto Spirited Away, the Hayao Miyazaki classic. Today, a Monday, I dropped an AFI project video on The French Connection from 1971. Wednesday, I'll be dropping a video on Pulp Fiction for the AFI project, and then Friday, I'll be dropping a video on The Last Picture Show. And then this coming Sunday, I'm going to be doing a bit of a retrospective on all of the Bourne movies, because I think they've gone under the radar as of late, and I'd at least like to celebrate the trilogy. So if you haven't checked out my channel, please do.
Yeah, I think maybe that last one kind of soured people on then. I was very disappointed in it, at least. So it'll be interesting to hear what you think of that series. You can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. Please check all of that out. We're doing Teen Movie Month right now for Family Movie Night. So please take a look at that. And then also check out Hallmarky's podcast this week. I'm doing a special bonus episode on Wednesday with Austin Burke, YouTuber Austin Burke. We're talking about the best of streaming 2021. So take a look at that. It's a lot of fun. So thanks so much, everybody. And we'll talk again soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.